Thank you for joining us today. I am sat here with probably my favorite keynote presenter of all time in the travel industry. I just sat and was so lucky to sit and listen to Mr. Larry Pimentel, the CEO and president of Azamara Cruise Lines, at the Affluent Traveller Symposium. And we're so lucky. This studio today is hosted by Travel Market Report. Thank you for this morning. It was incredible.
Wasn't it fun?
It was fun, it was knowledgeable. My hands couldn't type or write fast enough because you dropped nuggets everywhere.
I intended to do that, and there were a lot of them.
Wow. There are a few hundred travel agents in the room today and tens of thousands who will see this. I want to ask you a few questions around some of the incredible things that you said this morning. We talked specifically about having a plan this morning and why travel agents need to have a plan. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's interesting. A plan is like a roadmap. If you're driving from one point to another and you didn't have GPS, you'd probably take a map. Call it old school, if you will. But a map shows you what your target is. Where are you going? What are you trying to do individually, personally? For me, my personal plan and my business plan are not the same, but they're bridged. And that's an important thing. So for an agent who wants to sell luxury, there's lots of luxury. Do they want to be a specialist in Africa? Do they want to be the cruise specialist? Do they want to be the ski holiday specialist? Perhaps it's geographical and they want to concentrate on the Pacific Rim or on Europe or on South America. The one thing I do know is you can't be all things to all people. That's a generalist. And people who are fluent want to talk to people who know what they're talking about. That takes a plan. That takes education. It takes learning. It's consistent. It's never over. Gloriously, it's never over. The market's changing, the world's changing, and you have to have a program that you're set on. If you do that, your chances of success are far greater.
Wonderful. You dropped some great information about the multiple generations that buy luxury travel. And I'm obsessed with generations, specifically the baby boomers. Talk to us about why the baby boomer generation is so important in the luxury market now, because there are many generations that buy luxury.
There are many generations, and that is true. And a lot has been written in recent years about millennials. Truth be known, millennials in sheer numbers of people have outpaced the boomer, but they haven't outpaced them in money, in cash, and in time. Boomers have time affluency. They've got an abundance of time. They're living longer than they've ever lived. In a 100-year period, we've changed by almost 30 years in life's duration. Technology, other things have come about. And if you consider it from a historical perspective, the demography, the age, and what occurred post-World War II, we had a generation of hundreds of thousands of GIs coming back. And the lifestyle pattern was I got married, I had children, I worked, right? Well, they produced a lot of kids. So much so that in the 1950s and 1960s, 10,000 plus people were being born a day just in the United States. Now, that generation has become so large that we have that many people retiring per day, but they're living longer. Their brains are fertile, and the technology has allowed them to do more things, and travel is one of the things that they want to do. So what we have is the biggest opportunity all the way through about 2049 in terms of the boomer wanting to travel, see the world, explore. They are explorers.
And today's 70-year-old or 75-year-old is very, very different to the 70-year-old 20 years ago. Tell us about the types of activity that the boomers are taking.
Yeah, that point is really important. If we were to look at somebody who's 60 today and look at their parents or their grandparents when they were 60, they were a lot older and sedentary. Today's 60-year-old and 70-year-old, and we're going to have more 80-year-olds. In fact, we're going to have more people at 100 than you can shake a stick at. All the numbers keep on going up. And part of it is the reason they do get to those ages is they are active. Their tourism pattern and their travel pattern is active. They want to be involved. So things like walking tours, biking tours. I mean, we do that on Azamara Club Cruises. We have bikes, 20 bikes. We serve a boomer audience. They love getting out on the bikes because talk about being local and going into communities. It's an authentic experience, and it's something that's fantastic. So I think that while people are aging, while the country has an aging pattern, the fact of the matter is they have more travel in them than the generations that preceded them.
Wonderful. You spoke this morning about the way that travel agents travel and the importance of being able to travel like you sell, travel like the people that you want to sell to. Speak to us about that.
Yeah, you know, travel agents have the opportunity to go on familiarization trips, and there's one thing any travel agent knows. When they go on a familiarization trip, their confidence increases,
Goes up.
their knowledge goes up. That's the reason. They're more comfortable. They have knowledge about selling a destination, a tour, a hotel, a ship, whatever the case may be. So I've said to agents, if you really want to sell to this market, they want to talk to somebody who's done it.
Yeah.
They don't want you to have the book upside down and you can read a little faster than they can. They want you to say, I've been to Florence. By the way, there's this great restaurant. They're looking for that experiential moment. They're not collecting things, they're collecting experiences. And so the agent has to have that themselves in order to be able to articulate the position.
And I think there are tens of thousands of travel agents watching right now that can identify with exactly what you just said, that being able to read just that little bit faster than what somebody else is, because the number of times that that retail travel agents are asked about experiences that they've never had are plentiful. But being able to truly speak about experiences, and you said this morning that, you know, about authentic experiences,
yeah, and
as opposed to the gross tonnage of a ship or the number of staterooms that a ship has.
The authentic experiences are key. Things that are exclusive, things that are authentic, things that are local, surrounded by human connection is where the hot spot's at. So let me take each of those just for a moment. Local is just that. It's local. It's not contrived. It's oftentimes why teen programs on ships don't work. It's not very authentic and low. Kids rather go out on the tours as well. They rather see it as well, to be quite candid. Yeah. And this notion of connecting to humans, the greatest experiences, the greatest pleasures, the most priceless moments are with other people. My grandmother used to say to me when I was a small kid, if you have something that's so exciting, but you have no one to share it with, what meaning does it have?
Wow.
And that to me is really powerful. So in travel, it's sharing that experience with others, and that's the richness of the profession. It's the richness of the give, because you're guiding people so that they use their time in the best possible way.
And because importantly, marketing assets are great for agents to have, to be able to reference, but to read the copy that's written by a marketing team is not the same as to experience it yourself.
Boy, is that accurate. You can get a lot of guidebooks. I prefer to go online today with YouTube, where so many experiences are kind of unfolded, where you can see it, you can experience it and say, boy, is that exciting. So my wife and I went a couple of years ago to South Africa. And she had looked at some stuff on YouTube and she wanted to jump off this mountain. And we hired a person who really flew this kite.
Wow.
And she flew off the mountaintop and just glided down. And for her, the ability to see Cape Town in that manner was exhilarating. Now, I had it all recorded. I'm like, not for me. I'll see you on the bottom at the car.
You didn't do it?
But no, I videoed her.
Okay.
I was running around and telling the car, just stay so I could see that. And I was videoing. And what did I do? I posted it so my kids could see it, right? On Instagram, here it came. And my kids were going, oh, right on. Why don't you do it, right? Look at mom. Yeah, that sort of thing. But I think people are just generally more active, and they want those experiences that are unique and special. When we talk about South Africa, we cannot not talk about that experience.
Wonderful. This morning you spoke to asking for the sale and getting to it quickly, closing the sale quickly. It's something that a lot of agents have a lot of fear around, because it's the fear of rejection. It's the fear of being told, no, I don't want to book that.
Right.
Tell us about
you used
that.
the right word. First of all, I want to hone in on this word fear, F-E-A-R. F-E-A-R, that's false expectations appearing real. I don't think I can, therefore I can't. That's nonsense.
So let's say that again. False expectations appearing real.
You falsely expect
Wonderful.
that you can't, it becomes your reality, right? Yeah. That's the wrong way to do it. You can do it. So the notion of selling to the affluent is the affluent expect you to ask for the business. If you're giving away all of your knowledge and you're not being paid for it, that's a hobby. That's not a profession. It's a hobby. The fact of the matter is we deserve to be paid for our knowledge and our expertise. You got to have knowledge, you got to have expertise, you got to have a plan. All of these things kind of connect at the end of the day. And when you do this, the affluent realize that if you have the knowledge, they want to know more, then you got to get to the end of the sale and close the sale. It's called GTM, and I don't mean to be rude. It's get the money. At the end of the day, if you're giving your services and you don't get paid for it, that doesn't make sense. You have to make a living. And the affluent expect you to ask. It's a weakness for many travel agents because they're almost fearful at that point. Well, to the affluent, it's not about fear. You begin to ask them questions that hones in. Well, what month would that be? Would that be June? Ask them a question for which you have to say, no, it's not June, it's September. Now I know it's September. And you wanted that ocean view on the ship. We should call and just see if it's available. You can always hold it as an option.
Because they'll stop you if you're not going in the right direction.
Bingo. And all you've got is a stop and a pause button. It's not the end.
And then redirect.
Right, and that's where the fear comes in. The fear comes in if I push or I ask, maybe I'll lose the sale. That's nonsense. You'll actually get it.
It's fascinating because when you look at other luxury brands outside of travel, if you walked into Louis Vuitton, Balenciaga, Porsche, Bentley, they're going to ask you for the sale.
No question. May I help you today? Do you have any questions? And what do they want is they want to get in a dialogue, but they want to ask questions. It's one of the key things. Do not sell to a client because you love it. Sell to a client because you've asked them questions which allowed you to interpret value and allowed you to help them make a great buying decision. That's the value. That's where the trust is built up. That's the reason they want to come back to you. That last holiday that she provided was amazing. I want to go back to her again.
I love what you said just there about asking, and your Nana and my Nana both told us the same thing. They said you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. How important is active listening, not hearing, but active listening in the sales process?
Well, active listening is the ball game, because active listening is ask a question, literally shut up and listen, not hear. Hear is like having the television on, doing your text while your friend is talking to you. You're not saying
or thinking about what you're going to ask next or what you're going to say next.
It's about listening is a form of engagement. It's the highest form of engagement. You're really tuned in to what the person is saying. And that's really important in the sales process. It's important to determine what it is that client wants. Let me give you one example because it's very powerful. Many years ago, I did a seminar with travel agents. I was in Northern California, and this agent raised her hand and said, I want to share something with you. I went into a supermarket, and I saw my client. She said, I'm so excited. I got a cruise booked. And she was thinking to herself, gee, she didn't book it with me. She's booked like 15 of these cruises. And she said, did you book it with one of the folks in the office? She said, no. Did we do something wrong? No. Well, what did you book? She said, I booked the owner's suite on Seabourn, and she had booked with this agent over 15 times on Carnival. What the agent didn't know is her husband passed away, and her 2 daughters said, Mom, you have the money. You always wanted to go on Seabourn. You're healthy and well, go on Seabourn. That agent lost the owner's suite sale because she pigeonholed the client as always Carnival, right?
Wow.
That's a mistake. That's no listening. We should be having that dialogue. What kind of holiday do you want next year? What are you looking for in the future? What's on that bucket list?
I loved that tip that you dropped today. I loved it when you said, don't be afraid to survey your clients and say, I'm getting ready in my business to best serve you next year. Where would you like to go?
That's part of the education.
Wow.
And the thing that's a wow about that is the customers will tell you.
Yes.
And then you can say, listen, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, they want South Africa, they want Maui, they are looking to go to New Zealand. Now I know, now I have a picture, and they can't do all of it probably in the same year. Now I have a multi-year plan with this clientele.
Or from which my marketing strategy begins to come to life. So the blogs that I'm creating, the Facebook Lives that I'm doing, the posts that I'm doing on social media, perhaps even the suppliers that I'm going to start talking to and opening dialogue with, because it's very important that travel agents have that engagement with them.
Spot on.
Now, we talked about listening. When a travel agent is listening, so the tens of thousands of travel agents that are going to see you today are going to say, wow, that's great, I'm going to do all those things. As they're listening to their clients, how do they make the connection and realize that they're talking to an Azamara client?
That's a really good question. It's what I would call selling signals. As you're talking to the clients, asking them for a holiday, for example, if you hear somebody talking about, let's say, a country, Japan, I'm using that as I'd love to go to Japan. There's so many things in Japan. Most people wouldn't think of a cruise line. But we're one of the cruise lines that specialize in destination immersion, longer stays, and we circumnavigate
Your
the
country
whole.
intensives.
They're country intensives,
Yes.
right? So I heard a selling signal. I heard a country. And now I'm recognizing a holiday that they might not have put with a single country. Now I have value because I've heard it. There might be a couple of things you suggest. One of the things I don't suggest is you suggest an army of things. It's confusion. At the end of the day, learn, listen, distill, take notes, and then conclude. What they are looking for you to do is to interpret the value. Based on what you said, I think there are two things I think that could be quite ideal for you. They are present the first. They are present the second.
And then ask.
And then ask for the
feedback.
business. Say, based on, I've heard your response and on your questions, this Azamara holiday looks like it's unlike any other, more time in port than anybody else. They have great programs in September. Is this of interest? And what I try to do, I said to you, is if this of interest. See, I assume they're a buyer. I do not assume they're a shopper. Asking them a question of this, is this of interest, is an exit.
Yes.
What I do is say, what month is it? We should check on the space, let me call. The client can stop you if they want to stop you. But for me, you head for the goal line.
Yeah.
If you take the football.
Not should I call?
Yes.
I'm going to
I'm
call.
gonna
Let's
call.
check.
Let's just check because if it's not available, we shouldn't take a lot of time. There are going to be other options. So I'm into preemptive closes. I'm into closing that's about getting the ball across the goal line, not up to the goal line, I failed. You want the business, ask them for it.
Right.
And by the way, you will have earned it. If you have knowledge, you will have earned it. And they know that.
Right. And so that's a great buying signal there with the country intensive. What are the key words that they can listen for that you know, this is an Azamara client?
First of all, when they're talking about a single country, as we've mentioned, I think when they're talking about experiential travel, connecting to people, food, drink, active holidays, we do a lot of things that are active. Golf, most people don't consider we have a program with Perry Golf that are fascinating. Wonderful. We have a sail and rail program with trains. So if trains come into it, the Orient Express always seemed cool. If they're talking about Africa and a safari, we have cruise and safari on land with Mikado. So a lot of these things are selling signals, opportunities that take you down a certain road and a certain path because you're now hearing the objective of the guest. It's important for you to understand what they are trying to achieve. So let me give you an example. If I'm talking to the agent, and this happened last week, I'm talking about 5 adult kids who have partners. I want to be with my kids. That's my luxury. My wife and I do. So I have a tendency to rent homes that are fantastic somewhere in the world because I want to live in the culture for a week or two.
Bring everybody together.
I want to engage with my kids, and all of us want to engage with locals. And we're looking for things that are authentic. We're looking for things that are really local and things that allow us to really understand a culture, because in doing so, it kills prejudice. We all grow. Being in the land of another, tasting the food of another, guess what? It's just fantastic stuff. I feel like a privilege when I'm selling the world to somebody.
That's amazing. And my second last question for you is, where do travel agents go to learn more about Azamara Cruise Lines, about your products and services?
Well, one of the great places to go is the internet, looking at the website, but we do have training modules online. They can actually go through a training module, and that'll give them a lot of education. Getting to know who their field salesperson is, who covers the region, is also very helpful.
It's a very important role.
It's a really important role, but I think the training online can be very, very valuable. We also have educational programs for serious agents where we will take them out and do a seminar at sea. So there are a number of different ways they can plug in. The one thing you shouldn't do is try to be everything to everyone, as I said. Try to understand who's my market. What are they looking for? If I'm in a university town and they're young university students, probably not going to be our product at all, unless they're going with their parents who are paying for it. It's a different sort of story. So try to understand what's in your backyard, who is the market you're serving, and what products can hit. You need enough products. You don't need all products.
That's so great. My last question to you, anywhere in the world that you have not been that is still on your bucket list?
Yes, 2 right now are on my bucket list. I have not been to the Seychelles. I want to go to the Seychelles, and I want to go to Marlon Brando's property that's in the Tahitian Islands in Taha. I have a desire. It's a lead generation property. It produces all its own energy. It's completely sustainable, and I understand it's like paradise for whoever's there.
The South Pacific is like paradise. That's my homeland, so I hope you make it out there.
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you would like to learn more about, not if, you should be learning more about Azamara Cruise Lines, be sure to take a look at the links on the bottom of the screen and join us back here on TMR TV very soon for some more wonderful information from great travel suppliers.